Aries. In the guidance brought by the movement of nature that may influence Aries today, you show great patience in your actions, especially when it comes to bringing happiness to your family. At work, discipline leads your way. You dislike idle chatter during working hours. You are understanding both at home and in the workplace, seeking peace throughout the day. However, you tend to be easily suspicious of others, which makes you avoid prolonged conversations. Remember, nature's work is never to be underestimated. It often arrives suddenly, so always be cautious. Taurus. In the guidance brought by the movement of nature that may influence Taurus today, you make decisions carefully to avoid future troubles. At work, you prefer not to be disturbed or distracted. You take your tasks seriously. You choose to listen first before speaking, to avoid saying anything that may hurt others. Your courage is paired with long patience, helping you stay away from conflict. Remember, nature's work is never to be underestimated. It often arrives suddenly, so always be cautious. Gemini. In the guidance brought by the movement of nature that may influence Gemini today, you stand by your word, especially promises made to your family, if it leads to a better life. At work, you're disciplined and prefer to work quietly to achieve progress. When it comes to money, you want things to be straightforward, no tricks. You're caring when it comes to feeding your family and are always ready to help your parents when they ask. Remember, nature's work is never to be underestimated. It often arrives suddenly, so always be cautious. Cancer. In the guidance brought by the movement of nature that may influence Cancer today, you're hardworking and prefer to plan before starting any task. At home, you are understanding, helping to prevent negative energy from entering your relationships. When it comes to money, you prioritize your loved ones over lending to others. You dislike asking for favors, believing that happiness should come from your own efforts. Remember, nature's work is never to be underestimated. It often arrives suddenly, so always be cautious. Leo. In the guidance brought by the movement of nature that may influence Leo today, you are frugal and prioritize understanding family members to avoid tension at home. You are diligent and focused on progressing in life. Lending money is not on your mind. You'd rather spend on your children. At work, you're patient, which helps create a cheerful and productive day. Remember, nature's work is never to be underestimated. It often arrives suddenly, so always be cautious. Virgo. In the guidance brought by the movement of nature that may influence Virgo today, you might come across as moody, especially when dealing with arrogant people. At work, you are industrious and dislike unnecessary talk during working hours. Your strong personality means you avoid long-winded conversations. Jealousy doesn't linger in your thoughts. You trust your loved one's words. When it comes to money, you gladly give to your family. Remember, nature's work is never to be underestimated. It often arrives suddenly, so always be cautious. Libra. In the guidance brought by the movement of nature that may influence Libra today, you show understanding within the family and avoid speaking with pride or arrogance. You are cautious in the way you live, preferring peace and order. At work, you cannot be easily deceived. Your mind is sharp and observant of both actions and words. At home, you strive for harmony, believing that peace brings good energy into your life. Jealousy may arise quickly today, but you deal with it in silence, planning your emotions with calmness. In love, you are affectionate and nurturing. And remember, the work of nature is never to be underestimated. It comes unexpectedly, so always be careful. Scorpio. In the guidance brought by the movement of nature that may influence Scorpio today, you may show sensitivity in the way you approach your tasks. You're understanding both at work and at home, but when you say something, You stand by it, so long as it's right for the situation. At home, you prioritize what needs to be done first, believing that completing tasks brings good energy into your life. When it comes to money, you are cautious, not quick to lend, preferring to provide for your family first. You do not easily trust new acquaintances, and you are caring in the way you prepare food for the family, believing that health begins at home. And remember, the work of nature is never to be underestimated. It comes unexpectedly, so always be careful. Sagittarius. In the guidance brought by the movement of nature that may influence Sagittarius today, discipline guides your actions. You dislike bribery and dishonest means when it comes to earning. You would rather take the harder path if it means working honestly. You're ready to assist your parents or siblings when needed. Jealousy doesn't bother you much, because you trust those you love. And when it comes to love, you are naturally warm, affectionate, and sincere. And remember, the work of nature is never to be underestimated. It comes unexpectedly, so always be careful. Capricorn. In the guidance brought by the movement of nature that may influence Capricorn today, you begin the day with a sense of determination, ready to take on house duties and responsibilities at work to achieve your long-term plans. Family comes first, especially when it comes to financial needs. You find joy in seeing them happy. You avoid meaningless talk, especially if it doesn't relate to your goals or livelihood. You're also careful with your words both at home and in the workplace. When it comes to money, you dislike discussions about loans. Your earnings are meant for your own family. And remember, the work of nature is never to be underestimated. It comes unexpectedly, so always be careful. Aquarius. In the guidance brought by the movement of nature that may influence Aquarius today, you want everything in the home to be organized and in place. You avoid conversations that involve harsh or offensive words, believing that negative energy must be kept out of your space. You are hardworking, especially when the task promises good income. Your mind is analytical, always checking and rechecking plans before action to avoid criticism at work. In love, you are affectionate and generous. You don't hesitate to spend when it's for the comfort or happiness of your family. And remember, the work of nature is never to be underestimated. It comes unexpectedly, so always be careful. Pisces. In the guidance brought by the movement of nature that may influence Pisces today, you don't easily make promises to others. You feel more at peace when commitments come from family rather than outsiders. You avoid lending money quickly, knowing that your earnings are meant for your loved ones. You dislike conversations that carry suggestive or inappropriate tones, and you tend to walk away from such people. At work, you're cautious and dislike starting anything without a well-thought-out plan. With your family, you are careful with your words, and in the workplace, you often prefer working alone to concentrate better. In love, you are soft-hearted and sincerely affectionate. And remember, the work of nature is never to be underestimated. It comes unexpectedly, so always be careful.